You're all set.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I'll call the Wellington Board of Education meeting to order on November 9th, 2021. This is a virtual meeting, Zoom, at 7 p.m. We have declared that we have a quorum present, so we'll move forward. Next item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States. Stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, item number 3 on the agenda is present to speak. Do we have anyone out there this evening, Phil?
So anyone that's here for present to speak, you can unmute yourself at this point in time. Just identify yourself when you unmute. I see Peter has his hand up.
Good evening, Peter Latinchich, 97 Trask Road. I wanted to extend my gratitude and appreciation for the past board and all their hard work over the years, and wish well the new board for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Anyone else? Again, you can unmute yourself. Going once. Going twice. I think that's it, Herb.
Okay, I was thinking the other day about the board and some of the issues that boards of education pursue, and this is a result of what Michelle said the other day, and we should do homework and so forth. But when I started thinking about it, I said, what are some of the issues? And I drew up a kind of a list. It's not all inclusive, and I'm sure you people could come up with additional ones, but some of them I thought about was government funding for education is a major issue because money really kind of drives education, and schools safety, the quality of education, discipline policies. Technology has had quite an impact on education, and still is. Voucher practices and programs. This doesn't affect Wellington too much, but nationwide it's kind of an issue. Common Core was an issue. Standardized testing, teacher salaries is always an issue. Teaching of evaluations and that type of thing. Teacher tenure, bullying is a constant item. Poverty affects education in some areas in many schools. When you look at school lunches and that type of thing, you get an idea of where that falls in a place. Class size sometimes is an issue and a controversial type of thing. Student mental health is another one. So as I said, I went through and I said, wow, I'm going to stop. You know, the number of things that we as board members have to contend with, you know, is really amazing. And then there are always emerging things that in education, trends, you might call them, in education. And over the years, I've been in education for a long time, and I've seen everything, I guess. And there's always a new fad, something new coming up. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. A little thing like moving away from grades. This was kind of an issue and a trend for a while, and it's still out there. The rise of microeconomics, flipped classes is another trend in some places. And this kind of reverses the traditional classroom where the teacher instructs in the classroom and discuss, and students go home and study the information and that type of thing. When you flip it, the instruction is delivered online by computer. So they get their instruction on the computer and then they come into class and also another one which we addressed to some extent was social and emotional learning, which has always been something that we've thought about, and we've always considered, a safe, comfortable environment for our students. So I said, I went through this and I said, well, I'll talk about it at the meeting tonight. And then I started thinking about the building project. And I said, wow, all these things plus a building project, plus everything else. And I've been in a lot of building projects. I was on the committee that renovated Hall School and Center School. Also, E.O. Smith helped renovate and rebuild that school. Also in East Con, I worked on the ACT school down in Elementary. I don't know if any of you have ever been inside of it, but we gutted that whole building and rebuilt it we put up classes and stages and rooms for an art program that is really neat, really. And also a couple of other East Con schools out there too. And I was thinking about it, and I thought some of the best practices in education in schools, and what would be the best practices in a K-8 school configuration. And it's probably a known fact that a K-8 school probably outperforms students in the middle school for some reason because of the way they're structured. And the test scores and attendance and GPAs and credits earned, and even discipline in a K-8 school is better than in just the middle school, apparently, in their achievement. And so how do schools do this? I mean, how do schools, K-8 schools, develop best practice and come up with some great schools? And I think there's a way of doing it, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of thinking. You have to kind of think out of the box because you're dealing with the curriculum. How do you design a curriculum for a building? How do you, even a new building with new facilities and everything, how do you train staff? And you have to get feedback from the community as well. The school committee that we've had, the building committee, has worked diligently, and they may have addressed all of these things and have their own ideas on it. And I think on the agenda tonight, we're going to be discussing it as well. But just the school physical design. Are you going to build what kind of building are you going to build? And most of us aren't architects. We don't, I have an idea of the kind of building I would build, and it would be really far out, but it would take a lot of money. And also, if you build a building, the physical part of it has to fit in with the curriculum, and you have to design the curriculum. Like we're going through curriculum development now, but the curriculum that we're developing is not going to be structured necessarily for a building that is hypothetical. We don't know what we're going to do. Also, you have to consider the extracurricular part of it, extracurricular rooms for clubs and stuff like that, for sports field, cafeteria. I mean, the cafeteria in the hall school, for example, was a former basketball court, really, and we converted it. And we put in a little gym with a stage because we didn't have enough money to build an auditorium. You know, I thought an auditorium was a great idea, could serve the whole town, but there wasn't enough money. It takes money to do some of these things, and the facilities as well. But I mean the air circulating things and furnaces and things like that. I ran into a block. I had an idea of what I thought the best practice in a K-8 school is, but I haven't done really enough research or thinking about it at this point. But there are some places out there, so that it's like Mansfield's building a school. I don't know. That's probably a K-8 school. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's on the plate for the board because they wanted specifications for school in town here. The building committee gave us that, and we turned it over to the superintendent. But that's an important part of this whole scheme of things. So that the one thing I did learn from those other building projects was that you come up with all of these ideas, the architect has a great influence because you meet with him and tell him, look, this is what we want and so forth, and he has to draw up the plans for it. And that's something else again, because there's so many people involved in this. And then you have to get the money from the state. And my idea of building a school would be too expensive. The state would not fund it, I'm sure. And they determine it on a basis of the number of students you have too. I mean, they just don't hand you millions of dollars. They're pretty tight, really. You have so many students, they allow so much space and so forth. So you're limited there. And then you have the community is involved too. I mean, the town can only afford so much money, and I'm sure they would support something if we sold it to them in the right way, because there's a real need for it. But the money from the state is not going to provide everything that we would want. So you may have dreams about what kind of school you're going to have, but when you end up, you get basic things from the state. And I guess I was thinking about this, and I'm sure that some of you have. I'm sure Michelle has been thinking about it. And it's a big thing, big project. And those of us on the board are going to have to face this and come up with ideas of what we're going to do in relation to this. Yeah, I think it's a great thing if we pull it off, really. I think from what I've heard, K-8 can provide a good education, but I was thinking of going further than that. How do we build a school where our students excel? You know, like we look at our test scores and they're, every year we look at them and we see improvement here and there. We see a leveling off and so forth, but some of us, I think, would like to see a move forward. And because in Mansfield, if they're building a new school and they have all the facilities and if they do the right thing there, their students are going to get some of the best practices. And if we don't do the same thing, our youngsters will have a difficult time at first there, but after a year or two, they'll move to their level, whatever they want to achieve. But anyway, that's just a few rambling things that I thought of, and there's a lot more. I'm sure we could spend all night discussing some of those things. We'll see where it goes anyway. But just think of K8. Okay. Moving on to communications. Phil.
I believe that Donna is still on mute and may not be able to unmute
you.
herself.
Thank you.
Oh, I could unmute myself. I just didn't want any background noise to interrupt her.
Sorry,
It's-
Donna.
it's-
But
Donna,
thank you,
it's,
Michelle.
Want to add to the agenda?
Yeah, and actually it kind of tag teams a little bit of what you said. I'm not sure what to call it. So I'm just gonna call it curriculum ? Because I just had some thoughts I wanted to share and questions I wanted to ask. So I don't know where that would fit.
We can put it under new business.
That's fine.
It would be B under new business.
C under, because there's already a B.
Yeah.
C.
Thank you. And do we have to make a motion or vote on that?
We do.
So I'd like to make a motion to add under item 9, new business, 8.C, called curriculum with a ?
I second it, Helena Testa.
Okay, it's moved and seconded that we place that
hey,
on
Herb.
the agenda.
can I just clarify, did you say 8C or 9?
9,
9C,
Thank you.
9C.
okay. Okay, any discussion relative to the motion? Hearing none, we will move. All those in favor of placing curriculum ? on the agenda as item 9C? Raise your hand.
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? The motion is unanimous that 9C will be curriculum ?
Thank you.
Okay. Down to communications. I do not have any communications.
I think there was 2 communications. One was from Amy Redding. I think the board got that yesterday. And then there was also a communication, actually, I think there was 2 to the board from Michelle Christensen, and the board has seen all of those communications at this point.
You say they were sent to us?
Yeah, I think both of them were sent directly to you from the writer, not from me.
Well, I'll have to admit, I've been on my computer off and on all day. I didn't see it, but I'll check back again later.
Yep, they're there, and I think it's just recognition that we received those.
Okay. Okay, we're on item 6, the superintendent's report. We have the 2021, 2022 update. B is Board of Finance Fund Transfer Update. C is Enrollment Update. D is Community Health Center Update, and E is Staffing Update. Okay, Phil.
Yep. And Herb, I'll tell you with what you shared in your chairman's report, I have a large desk and I have you don't see my desk on Zoom, thank goodness, but I have 16 different piles, I will tell you. And I think each pile is something you named. So to say there's a lot going on, you are very accurate about that. Regarding our 21-22 update, we had our first positive COVID case in school in a month on Sunday, which is great. It's been a month since we've had a case in school. The regional numbers have decreased. We've seen the same thing in Willington. We have had some community members identified as close contacts from events outside of school. But overall, the school has done just very, very well. I'm very proud of our staff, our students, our families. It's gone well. One of the issues, and this has come up as a concern, is when a community member is identified as a close contact, they're quarantined and they're missing school, and it's time that they're out. And so the superintendent's group was asking to have some change to this. I know there was a lot of politicians asking about this as well. And as a result, DPH and Department of Public Health and the Connecticut State Department of Ed, they introduced a program called Screen and Stay last week. And the concept behind the program is really to allow school districts the opportunity for individuals, and that's students or staff, who are unvaccinated and they're identified as a close contact, that they can remain in school as long as the individual was masked and asymptomatic. And so there's some criteria that goes along with, but basically anyone identified as a close contact through the school setting would be allowed to remain in school while monitoring for COVID symptoms. And the reason behind this is that we have not seen transmission in schools with the protocols that we have had in place. If they obviously have any symptoms, they would not be able to participate in the Screen and Stay program. They would have to quarantine. For whatever reason, DPH and CSDE did not include preschool students in this. We have to assume it's because of masking and the concern about wearing masks appropriately, but they do not qualify for this program. And then the other thing about the program is that outside identification does not apply to the Screen and Stay program. So meaning someone who has identified as a close contact from a family party or a sporting event, something outside of school, they would not be eligible to participate in the Screen and Stay program. So I just wanted to share that information with the board. I'm bringing this. We just had another DPH call about this topic this morning. I'm going to be reconvening the reopening committee and running it by them, see if they're recommending it. I will be recommending it because I think it can work. And we have data to show that we haven't seen the transmission. And we'll see if there's a potential implementation in the future. On a different note, the staff has been working extremely hard on their reading professional development. As you know, we have a 2-year commitment with a letters professional development. It's a ton of work. They are making it happen. They're working through the process. We have conferences coming up right before Thanksgiving. Those will be held virtually. Different news, we just heard our bus company hired an additional driver. It was like, woohoo, a big cheer for that one, because that's not happening these days. We're just not finding drivers. So we are actually going to be adding a route back that we had in our budget that was had been merged. And so that's important because a couple of the routes were really lengthy. They were pushing the amount of time we really wanted kids on the bus, and then we were closer to capacity. So that's really going to help with spacing and time. And then lastly, I wanted to share that regarding the 21-22 update, there was collaboration between Chief Moore, Alex Moore at Willington Fire 1, First Selectwoman Wachinski, and we worked together. And Willington was identified as a heart-safe community by the Connecticut Department of Public Health. And that was the result of Alex did a lot of training of our staff. They trained a lot of staff in CPR. work with defibrillators. They added defibrillators around town. And so you're going to see those signs going up. You know, I take very little credit for this other than just trying to promote my staff to get CPR trained. Alex really spearheaded this. He did a lot of work to get our staff together, and you're going to see those signs going up around town. So congrats to him. And you're going to see our big Heart Safe community sign. It says Heart Safe Campus at Hall School out in front. So that's good news. Item B, the Board of Finance. Did someone say something? Okay,
No.
sorry. The Board of Finance fund transfer update. I did want to let you know that they approved the fund transfer from the 2021 budget to the non-lapsing fund at their last meeting. Again, with the understanding that those funds are going to be for the unbudgeted out-of-district special education placement we know we have. We'll make that request to access those funds towards the end of the year once all of the outplacement costs have been invoiced. You know, think when outplacement costs, there could be additional services added or removed, which is a savings. And that, you know, you can see paras, transportation changes. So closer to the end of the year, we will be asking for that. The enrollment update, there's no change from last time. Center School has 200 students. Hall School has 185 students. I added something to the report this time that we're tracking. We currently have the 3 outplacements. You know, we have that. So we have 388 students in our Power School. But we have 3, since our last meeting, we have 3 brand new magnet school students that have enrolled this year. So that's 3 new. We have a total of 11 magnet school students this year that the town pays for a tuition for them to be someplace else. And so we're going to be sending letters to those families, inviting them to visit Hall and Center schools to see if we can entice them to join our learning community. The majority of those folks have never been to the Wellington Public Schools. Someone just bought a house here in town. Their child was already in a magnet school, and their request is to keep them there. So something we're going to try and just see if we can entice them to come back. And then we also currently have that we know of 12 homeschooled students. Homeschool students are hard to track down because if they don't tell us, we don't know. We do our best to identify them. We don't know. So that's kind of where the enrollment falls today. The CHC update. The social worker posting is for Wellington is listed out there. And as I'm sure you know, there's a huge need across the state and the country for social workers. You can probably pick any place you want to work right now. It's a wicked shortage. We currently have one of the certified staff who's licensed. She's a licensed clinician from CHC filling in. She also happens to be a parent in Wellington. So she's invested, but she's really just filling in. She's trying to cover a couple districts at this time. They currently have, they're not doing a lot of what I'm going to call recruitment. We're not pushing out marketing materials to let families know. We did share the information out, but because we can't really provide the service until we have someone, we don't want to share that. So they have 4 students enrolled that parents have requested and signed up. I will let you know once we get a full-time person on board and get going. The other thing I wanted to share about CHC is that's connected is the social emotional learning. We are getting great feedback from staff and students about the curriculum that we purchased, the Second Step program. It seems to be going extremely well, and you know, between students and staff feedback, it's positive. So we'll collect some feedback on that from staff and students, and I will share that back at the board at a later date. Staffing, we have a site visit at Center School tomorrow morning for a principal candidate. The committee is going to meet after the site visit to determine their next steps. We are down to 1 candidate because the second candidate withdrew. And just because there's 1 candidate remaining does not mean that will be our person. But I just wanted to share that. And the other thing I want to share around that same thing is, and I know a couple of you voiced this concern when I shared that we had an interim principal that was going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I told Erin Conley to say something if she felt like it was a challenge for her to get her curriculum work done when she was doing principal work. She contacted me last week in an email. It is the first time she contacted me about this, and said, we had a hard week. I didn't get a lot of curriculum work done on Tuesday and Thursday because of the amount of principal work I'm doing. And I wasn't going to wait for a second email. So I basically went out and kind of searched to see if I can find someone. I did locate someone, and I hired Nancy Larson. She is a retired administrator and teacher out of South Windsor. Great references out of South Windsor and Bolton. She's already done an interim position in Canton. She was happy to only do 2 days a week. I brought her in to work with Erin and Mary Beth for a couple of hours just so we could talk about process and what it would look like. And so she's going to join us until the end of the calendar year, not the school year. So she's really with us until January 1, which is great. So Erin can go back and focus on curriculum. Again, I want to let you know that I meant what I said. If Erin said something, I would try and change it, and I have. Last thing for staffing, we had 2 open paraprofessional positions. We have filled them. Marcia does a little dance every time she is fully staffed for special education because it's hard to find people. And last time she announced that we were fully staffed, by the end of the meeting, she was not fully staffed. So today, last time when she just said yesterday, she did the knock on wood, and she's still fully staffed as of today. So that's good for her. So we hired Josh Look and Ben Trowbridge as paraprofessionals. And then Bryn Lipstrew left, as you know, for 3rd grade. And we hired, I think is going to be a dynamite teacher, Leslie Tillum. She's going to be starting with us on Monday. So staffing is looking in good shape. The only spot we are hurting right now is our 0.5 health position. It is just really hard to find someone. So we're looking to see if we can make some connections with university to see if, the end of the semester is not too far away, to see if we can get a recent grad. But I'm going to be honest, there's a ton of full-time PE health jobs out there. I'm not sure a recent grad is going to want a 0.5. And so we're also looking at what our other options are at this time. So that is my superintendent report. Do you have any questions?
Okay, any questions regarding Elena?
Yes, Elena Testa. Well, I have a question about 11 magnet school students. Are those 11 students included in our overall count of 388?
No,
No.
they're separate.
Okay. And I also would like to make a comment about homeschoolers. I personally know at least 20 homeschooling kids in our town, but I know there are more, just for information.
Yeah, and so if we know someone, we send paperwork out, but if they don't return it, there's nothing I can do about it. So we notify, if we know someone's a homeschooler, we send out a letter and just say, please sign off and just say that you're homeschooling your child. And if they don't send anything back, sometimes we can guess that they're homeschooling, but they're not attending school.
Phil, isn't it a state requirement that they notify you or just touch base with you?
Yes, but there's nothing, if they don't do it, there's not any repercussion. There's nothing.
Yeah. Ann?
What is the status on the art position?
So we have a finalist, and we're in the final, hopefully in the final piece of negotiation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Laura, is that what you were going to ask? And you had your hand up.
No, I was going to ask just what Herb asked, because I thought it was a state regulation. So these people are, I guess, breaking the law if they're not letting you know.
I don't know
or
if it's,
is
yeah,
it not
I don't
a law,
know that
just
it's law.
not that, yeah, not that severe.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's part of our child find requirement that we try and identify students. That's why we send letters when we know. But if they don't respond, there's the, all I can say is there's students living there, but they're not attending school, and there's not much I can do about it.
Phil, how much do we have in the non-lapsing fund now?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's around 260,000. And I anticipate the cost of the outplacement will be about around 100,000. So after the cost of that outplacement, you'll be in the area of 160 left.
Okay. So when will you know that?
Well, I mean, we won't, it doesn't make sense to request it now because that number could go up, it could go down. As any outplacement, so if a student's in an outplacement facility, and let's just say it's working great, students going great, maybe there's a removal of a para, maybe there was special transportation with a paraprofessional that's no longer needed, that brings the cost down. If things are not going well and there's paraprofessional support and occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language, that all brings the cost up. If the facility is not meeting the child's needs and we had to go back to another PPT and identify a new facility, it could cost more money. I mean, you could double that $100,000 cost easily.
Right.
So it's just, that's why we want to wait until all the invoices are in, until we make that request. And that's typically, we have a pretty good sense by April how a student's doing. It doesn't mean it's set in stone because obviously things can change in April, May, and June.
Right.
But we would have to get the ball rolling around that time.
Now, on the community health center, what facilities have we provided? We have an office, telephone and all that set up?
Yep, they have a space at Hall as their primary, and center. They share an office when someone's not in that space. It's small.
So they're sharing right now.
At center, at Hall, they have their own space,
Okay.
which is not a surprise. I mean, the number of students we have at Hall, you have space there.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments or questions on the superintendent's report? Okay, we're ready to move on then. Item 7, financial report, November financial report.
Yep, I can share it on my screen. It'll be easier for you.
I wish you would, because I tried to print it. I couldn't print it
No problem.
for some reason.
Just move you all over here. Give me a second. Okay, so we had some movement of money. Donna and I have been working on some on transitioning things, encumbering things, moving things out. So when you look at program 1, there was some money added back. The 3rd grade position, that was Bryn, we unencumbered that money. The art is not encumbered. The principal is not encumbered January to June, and Title I is not applied yet. So obviously when you encumber those positions, there's a huge chunk of that money goes away. Program 2, again, art's not encumbered, Title I grant is not applied, and the health teacher who left, those funds are now unencumbered as well. I asked Marcia
Phil,
to,
excuse me,
sorry,
how come I'm logged out?
you're logged out?
Yeah, I'm not on
We
the
see
Zoom right now. What happened?
We can see you and we can hear you, Herb.
Herb, there's a little camera at the bottom of your screen. If you click on that, it might bring you back so you can see. A little projector icon.
I see it, but it's not doing anything.
Herb, let me stop sharing and see if that helps for a second. Did that change anything for you, Herb?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, let me share my screen again and see if that,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
sometimes when there's a lot of people on, you can only see, like mine shows up at the bottom of the
Yeah.
people. You can only see maybe 5 or 6 at a time. So
So
you may
much,
not be
yeah.
able to see everybody.
Yeah, Okay, so special ed, I asked Marcia to encumber, and we're meeting with, just as we always do, we have a meeting coming up with Donna and Marcia to go through the special ed costs. You know, this is the most volatile area. I asked her to encumber what she thought the outplacement tuition was today, just so we can see what the money is going to look like, and we can plan for if there's going to be excess or a shortfall. And it also helps us plan for excess cost. And so you see, I mean, I think there's like a $400,000 difference since last month. And that's what you're seeing there of the new money encumbered. Minimal change in program 4, 5, no change in program 6. We encumbered the heating fuel for center and hall. So that's down to basically what it should be. Minimal change in program 8 and 9, again, minimal change. The school choice and district subscriptions are not encumbered yet. And then program 10, I hope we're closing in soon on being consistently staffed so we can make our adjustments for insurance, because obviously if someone leaves and they're taking insurance and a new person comes in and they don't take insurance, it changes this bottom line, or vice versa. So that's the update on the November budget report. Any questions on that? And I can't see you, so I'm going to stop sharing. And if you're muted, just let me know. Tracy, just give me a wave, or Donna, if you are
No
muted.
questions? Okay, if you think of something, we can come back to it. Okay, moving on, Phil. Committee report, school building committee.
And I think that's you.
Yep. We're in the process now of writing a proposal for an owner's project manager. And we have committee members who are working on that. And we also have, what's the name of the Colliers? Is it still that's helping?
Colliers, there's 2 companies, and CSG are both going to review it for us for free.
Okay, excellent. And see if make sure we have everything that we need. And I have a feeling that once that goes out and we hire that person, I think we'll probably begin to move forward very quickly with their guidance.
The
They'll
other thing,
also be
sorry.
they'll also be working with us as a board to help, set up our educational needs for the children, which will then determine what the building, whatever we decide, whether it's a renovation or a new building committee would look like and would need to have.
The committee also signed off on an enrollment study from Dr. Peter Prouda, so that is in the works as well.
Okay, thank you, Ann.
Welcome.
Item 9, new business. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, October 12th, 2021. This is an action item. Michelle?
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 12th, 2021.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay.
I'll second it. Ann Gerson.
And a seconding. Okay, any discussion relative to the minutes? Elena?
Yes, first of all, I have a question. I had to ask it a long time ago. I'm just curious, who is responsible? Who is writing the minutes?
So typically it's someone who we hire. But lately it's the minutes that you see for my superintendent's report, I write out as I plan for meetings. And then the rest of it, Brenda really goes through and listens to the tape and just tries to get a snapshot for the remainder of the meeting into the other areas of the minutes. To be honest with you, this is like a book. I don't know. I personally think it's too much, especially because we're recording meetings and someone can go back. I don't know if anybody's looking at our minutes.
Oh, I know many people are looking at the minutes. So Mike, my again, disagreement with the minutes that I could see again, the buyer's point of taking these minutes as during the last meeting when I was unhappy about them being biased. This particular minutes just mentions that I was unhappy, but doesn't mention the subject why I was unhappy. While right after me, Michelle Cunningham, she was unhappy. No offending to Michelle, that's her right, but her point is stated. My point was not stated. So I could again see bias minutes, so I can support them as in the current form. As yeah. Thank you.
I have something, on page 10. I don't know whether I misspoke or it's written, but it said Donna Cook asked what money could help move the students in the red or yellow into green. I just like the word money because I think I was talking about what would help them. So either I misspoke or it was misdone. I don't know whether I said programs or if I said money, it was incorrect of me.
Well, we have a recording of this, don't we, Bill?
Yeah, I just didn't want to go back and find one word, to be perfectly honest.
That could be a mistake, Don. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I could have misspoken, so I'm not trying to blame anybody.
So Donna, I'll take a friendly amendment if you want to change the word from money to programs.
Well, or just leave out the word. I think it says Donna, if it says Donna Cook asked what could help move the students in the red or yellow into green, that kind of covers anything that would have been there.
So I accept the friendly amendment to strike the word money from that line.
Thank you.
Okay, so you'll make that change, Michelle?
I'm fine with making that change. I'm not going to make it myself.
You're the secretary, so. Any way you want. Okay, you want to make a motion then to just modify the,
I'll accept a friendly amendment to strike the word money from that line.
okay.
Do you need a second for that or?
No, that's just a friendly amendment
Okay,
to the minutes. Unless someone objects. Okay. Anything else on the minutes? Okay, item B, review of the draft.
You have to vote. You have to vote, Herb.
Hmm?
You have to vote.
Oh, we didn't vote yet. That's right. Okay.
Right.
The minutes. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to accept the minutes signify by saying aye
Aye.
as modified. Okay, all those opposed?
Hi,
Absent? Aye, it was one
Elena
aye.
Testa.
Okay, any abstentions? Okay, the motion's passed.
Herb, you have to do a roll call because that rule, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Herb, yes. Ann,
yes,
Elena,
No,
Laura,
Yes.
Tracy?
Oh,
She's there.
hang on, we'll take you off
Yeah,
mute.
muted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tracy? Okay, Michelle?
Yes.
Oh, did I miss anyone?
Me, yes,
Donna?
Donna.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. The motion is unanimous, passed. Review of the draft of the 2022-2023 school calendar.
Yeah, so I feel like this gets earlier and earlier every year. EastCon likes to have this conversation pretty early. I will tell you that the draft that was sent to you has already been modified because I don't think it's saved right. So I'm going to share my screen again. This is very consistent with, sorry, I'm just moving so I can see you all as best I can. This is very consistent with the current year's calendar. I'll just kind of give you a quick snapshot. 3 days of professional development in the beginning. So you have then you go into the Labor Day weekend. So it really starts 2 days in, 4 days in, 5 days in. I think people like that transition. We are aligned with Ashford, EO Smith, Mansfield with this calendar. There was a mistake on the number of days in August. That has been corrected. It says 26 on yours. It was actually 21. October usually has this half day here, and that's usually goal setting for teachers, and then staff development on the 11th. This would be consistent with this year. The conference days, so you've got the 1 week only of inconsistency as far as for parents. This used to be a month where there was professional development. We've taken that out. So each of the 21, 22, 23 are half days. The vacation next year for December is pretty long, just the way the holiday falls. And the second is a holiday. It's really the first we have to provide, but because it falls on a weekend, we have to provide it on the second. And so that's a long break. And then obviously you've got MLK in January. We have a staff development scheduled in February, and you've got a holiday and the vacation day in there. Some places do that. I think it's a good long weekend to break things up because the month of March is a long month with nothing in it, no breaks, no days off. I think it's the most consensus I've ever heard from districts around April vacation this year. Typically we're the third week, but everyone was saying they were going to go to the second week because of where I think that's Good Friday on the 7th there. So they're connecting the two. And the reason why we want to be aligned there is because many of our teachers have kids, and if their kids don't have school, we need them to be in school. It's kind of hard. So that's why it's there. You've got the Memorial Day in May, and then the last day of school at this point in time would be a half day on the 14th. That would be the 182nd day. Staff would work their last day on the 15th without any snow days, and that would be your calendar. So it's a draft at this point. If you have any suggestions, I would want to bring them back to Ashford and EO Smith, but it basically is meets contract language, and it mirrors what we have this year. I also wanted to get your feedback before I talk to the union about it, because I typically bring this calendar to the union to say, do you have any additional feedback? But it matches the number of professional development days and the calendar for the region.
Bill, just for clarification for people who haven't been through this process before, we do not set aside any days for potential snow days. So that date in June would be bumped out by the number of snow days that we have.
That is correct. So if we have a snow day, there's no school, there's no remote learning for that this year per law. And so it would basically just bump out a day and we'd make that adjustment. You also have the April vacation that if it was snow days, if you got just a doozy of a winter, you could also look at impacting your April vacation. And something to think about if you know, there's pro and con to this, but if you don't like the length of the December break because it is long, and you wanted to consider adjusting a day, you probably could go to school on the 23rd of December because it is a Friday, and it used to be a half day. And we because of how the holiday fell, we adjusted it and made it a full day. Well, now that the Monday is off on January 2nd, it is an extra long break. And so, you know, I think teachers like that. It gives them a good solid break, but it is a long break. So if you're looking for any adjustments, that would be something that you can look at.
Phil, Bernie schools start early in August.
Yes, some school districts are starting before the week before, and some are starting after. EO Smith, Ashford, and Mansfield and Columbia. I think Columbia too, but I'm not sure about. But Mansfield, Ashford, EO, we all agreed to be around this date. The only thing that's could change Mansfield's they have a school building project going on. They're anticipating they're going to be in their new building next year. They might have to make an adjustment, but our professional development days, we have a couple that are aligned with them. The vacations are aligned with them. Things like that. But yes, some are starting the week of, what is it, August 2nd?
22nd.
Yeah, if you can see what I just brought up on my screen, can you see that or no?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I've just brought up the calendar, and it's some are starting the week of August 22nd, which is pretty early. If you have AC in your buildings, probably a reasonable thought to start then. If you don't, you have some risk there.
So this calendar is almost the same as last year's, but do we have enough special professional development days? You think?
Yes. Yep. The contractual number of student days is for teachers is 182. It's there. The contractual number of days for professional development and is 6. And the 6 is includes a day and a half of cleanup and setup, and it's all built into this calendar.
And as far as professional development, we don't have any in the second half of the year.
Which is typical, Herb. I think they do their professional development through
Early
staff
on.
meetings if they need to, because you typically want to get your PD done early to set your year and work on the things you want to, whatever you want to establish for the year. And to be honest with you, with the letters training that they're doing, there's PD every single week in this calendar. You just don't see it.
Okay. So you'll bring this back to us after you check with Ashford and.
Yep, in the union. Did anybody else have any thoughts about it? Oh, Donna has her hand up. Sorry.
So first of all, I'm just so excited that they finally figured out how to have a holiday. So if somebody wanted to visit their family for Easter, they didn't have to travel on Easter Sunday to get the kids back to school on Monday. And it's a double blessing because Passover starts on the 6th. So you kind of get people that might want to be with their families for the holidays. So I'm excited about the fact that for the April vacation, and I think that a longer December vacation, I mean, let's be real, when it hits the 23rd, do we really think that the kids are paying a whole lot of attention? So let's be honest about it and just say it's better to have the day off.
It's probably why we went from a half day to a no days to a no day.
So if we don't have any snow days this year, the students and staff will get out early.
Correct.
Okay, so that'll come back later. We'll address that.
Yep.
after.
That'll be on agenda again.
Okay. Item 9C, curriculum, question mark.
Okay. So I was talking to somebody in town and did some thinking. Currently, our schools are not successful in getting our students to meet the minimum standards, as evidenced by approximately 50% of our students not meeting the minimum standards. When my family moved to Willington, we were blue ribbon schools. I did a little research on Zillow. Center School is now rated 3 out of 10 or gets a 3 out of 10. Hall gets a 6 out of 10. And I don't believe that throwing more money at the problem is going to fix the problem, because we're spending over $20,000 a student, which is not, that's a reasonable amount of money. So someone suggested buying curriculum from schools around us that are successful. My concern is we've got somebody coming in to do curriculum, and this is nothing against her or the job she's doing, but waiting 3 years is a long time. So I did the same thing. I looked on greatschools.org, And Ann E. Vinton School in Mansfield is rated a 10 out of 10. And Mansfield Middle School in Stores, which the Ann E. Vinton does pre-K to 4th. They have 220 students. Mansfield Middle School is much larger than Hall. It does 5th through 8th, and they have 553 students. They're an 8 out of 10. But I just checked based upon what Herb said about the pre-K to 8th. Well, Ashford has a pre-K to 8th, and they're rated a 4 out of 10. I looked for the best scores. Dorothy Goodwin School in Stores does pre-K through 4th. They have a 9 out of 10. And Philip R. Smith School in South Windsor does pre-K to 5. They've got a 9 out of 10. Lake Street School in Vernon is pre-K to 5, and they're a 9 out of 10. So my question becomes, what can we do now to help our students? Our test scores, even pre-COVID, were not good. And I'm concerned that this process is going to wait. It's going to be another 3 years before our kids get what they need. So I did not know if it was a viable option, especially since 2 of the schools are our neighbors. Actually, 3 of the schools are our neighbors. To reach out to them. I don't know if you've already done this, Phil. That was my concern and my question, because we want our kids to be successful. And I was heartbroken when I saw the scores again. And then when I saw the ratings of the schools, and I know they look at a lot of things, but academic performance is one of the things. So that was my thing I wanted to share. Thank you.
Okay, anyone like to comment on that? Michelle?
I want to thank Donna for doing her homework. As I mentioned last meeting, I really appreciate the fact when people think about our work in between times, because that's the best way for us to educate ourselves and to make good decisions. I would urge all of my fellow board members to do deeper research than Zillow and Great Schools, because you're right, Donna. They do take a lot of different factors into their algorithm. However, those would not be the 2 algorithms I would use to compare schools from one to another. The State Department of Ed does a lot of work to allow them to compare schools, and all of the data is available on the Ed site part of the Department of Education website. There's a ton of education data there. And I think that it's worth having a further discussion about that, but let's go deeper than just the high level combination scores, which I don't think tell us enough.
So Phil, when we're looking at hiring somebody to do the curriculum, I don't know how much work you did at looking at what other schools that are successful based upon the Department of Ed site, which I would not have known to look at. Which schools are successful, what makes them successful, and can we duplicate what they're doing without reinventing the wheel, so we can cut some, valuable time off of this.
I think that that's really a deeper conversation that we would have to do some research on. And if we want to put it on a future agenda where we ask some specific questions, and then all of us, excuse me, do some additional digging to look in different areas. It's very important to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So the Department of Education has things, I don't know, they used to call them DERGs. Are they ERGs now? They've got some initial.
Yeah,
ERGs. So they're reference groups, so that it lets you better compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. You can't just look at the quality of a curriculum and say that that is the result. The success of the students is a result of the curriculum. So certainly I think that I'd like to see what the curriculum that's coming out of our current investment looks like and give the curriculum committee some time to really look at what her proposals are before we start making dramatic changes. Certainly Phil is overseeing that work. You know, she's not just operating in isolation. So maybe having her come back and or have a presentation to the curriculum committee and then having a discussion in more depth about any particular item that you're concerned about. But I think we're taking steps and investing money to work towards this. And certainly she's looking at best practices of every sort of from everywhere, not just from any one type of school or any one type of curriculum. I'm sure she's you know, looking at a wide array of different things and trying to fit it into what we already have and where we are on a continuum.
Well, I guess a follow-up question to that, Michelle, is why do we need to fit something into what we already have if what we already have isn't working? It looks like, I mean, it just, this is my, we're going to be 3 years down the road before this stuff gets implemented. And I mean, my kids are done. It doesn't affect me, but these are our children as a town. And I'm frightened for them.
Tracy's got her hand up. Herb.
Tracy, go ahead.
Well, Donna, I'm on the curriculum committee, and if you look back, Phil sent us some information after the last meeting, first of all, about the schedule. And the curriculum is not going to take, it's going to take 3 years to complete the entire thing. But Erin will be sending out things a little bit at a time. And if you look at that calendar, which I do not have in front of me right now, because it's too hard with the Zoom screen in front of me to have opened everything, but it was very close to our last meeting that he sent us follow-up information from our meeting. And part of that was a calendar of when Erin plans to have parts of the curriculum completed and then ran past the curriculum committee, and then we will bring it to you to be voted on. But the curriculum that we're voting on, much of it is already being put in place. And I think it's very unfair to base whether our schools are being successful on one set of data, because that is one moment in time, and we have lots of data in schools. And we just got an opportunity to see one piece of it at our last meeting, but I'm sure the administration could bring us other pieces to say that our kids are not, that you should not be frightened. I think our kids are doing quite well. And many of us in this room have students have come out of Wellington and been very successful going into middle school. And that's not changed in the past 2 years for my kid or 6 years. It's there, but we need to look at more data points. Please broaden the view of what you're looking at, because this does not, I'm saddened by, I understand your concerns and I'm glad we're bringing them to a discussion, but I'm saddened to hear you say that you're frightened for our students, because that is not how I feel on this board or as a parent.
What other data points should we be looking at?
Phil, can you answer that a little bit more?
Yeah.
I don't think I can think properly at this time of night.
No, I and this is ironic that this was about Herb's chairman's report tonight. But when you start looking at, you know, the last 10 years and you look at funding and school safety, and I mean, I'm just going to look at his list that I was writing down: discipline, quality of education, technology, what we did in Wellington with Common Core versus other towns, standardized testing, bullying, poverty, mental health. That is, you know, they try and compare you in your DERG to people that you are like based upon, you know, some standards, and I can share that. You know, Mansfield's in a very different, and this is what I always found strange. They're in a different DERG than us, but we're a feeder school to the same, you know, we feed into the same high school. I just always thought that was strange. Some of the things I think that Mansfield's had in place for years, we're now catching up with. And Donna, you know, I don't disagree with you. We have a lot of growth to do. You know, I think that there is more than SBAC. You know, I agree with other board members saying that. some of those other pieces of data that we're looking at are things like attendance, the percentage of students with special education needs, number of students that are in intervention and leaving intervention. What does overall attendance look like? Number of students that are receiving free and reduced meals. Those are all pieces of data that you look at when you're making some judgments. But the bottom line is, this is where I think that, you know, why we need a really strong curriculum is that we haven't been here before. We haven't, our data, Don, I know you say we were a blue ribbon school. I can pull the data from 10 years ago. The adjustment in the CMT land was never great. The adjustment to SBAC has never been great. What we saw, and I remember David Harding as superintendent sharing some of these things, saying where our kids come in kindergarten and where they leave as 8th graders was significantly a huge piece of growth. And now the State Department of Ed is looking at growth over what the actual outcome is. The one piece that I think we're doing right now is the professional development. We are all on the same page for professional development, and you know, we're doing it with Ashford and Mansfield. We're all talking about what a 21st century learner looks like. But in Wilmington right now, what we're doing in letters training, I think it was Mississippi, it might have been Georgia. They used letters training and their scores skyrocketed. And it's a research-based program, and it's one of the reasons we're doing it. And I'm going to tell you, it is not easy. The staff is spending a significant amount of time to do this work, and that professional development is you know what we're doing now. So the balance of curriculum with the proper professional development with a high quality intervention program. There's a lot of factors in what we're doing to improve. And I'm going to say one more thing, Donna, and this is really for the entire board. When Herb said all those things tonight, and I say we have 16 files on my desk, we are trying to accomplish something right now. I don't know that's ever been tested in Wilmington. And you can ask any of my staff members that right now. They are working extremely hard with the amount of professional development they're doing. And the push that we're doing for curriculum is really important to move things faster. And the curriculum committee can share that. Where we were headed, it was going to take us 10 or 15 years, and that just wasn't acceptable to me.
Have we ever considered, because I did go and hear somebody speak, and I did not write down, I forget what town they were from, but it was one of the poor performing school districts in Connecticut. And what they had done is they set up a Saturday, I'm going to call it Saturday study sessions, and where the student and the parent would come in, and it helped the parents get familiar with the curriculum, which we've already talked about. It's hard for parents to have access to that. And to help them help their kids. So they, you know, helping your kid when you're unfamiliar with the material is difficult. But if you're familiar with it, then you can help your student. And that was something I thought, I'm like, I don't know if a parent, as I would have wanted to spend my Saturday mornings, but when you're a parent, you do lots of things you don't want to do because it'll help your kid. So I don't know if something like that was ever considered in the process.
Certainly one of the things that we've talked about in the past, Donna, is that more time for students who are struggling is always a good thing. And that's one of the reasons I've always pushed the expansion of the wealth program over the summer, because students lose a lot of some of the learning they do during the school year over the summer before they go back. So some of the successful models in Connecticut have incorporated more summertime, not summer school, but a combination of fun stuff and reinforcement on the learning that has been very successful, but it's expensive. And a lot of families don't want it because they want to go on vacation, or they like summer, or whatever, or the choices there are. So I think you're right. There are ways to support struggling students, but we need to do it in a way that it's fair and that it meets families' needs. So that might be something for us to include on another survey of parents going forward. And to think about ways that we might be able to get more time on task. So for example, some places have homework help clubs after school a couple of days a week. Some of them have other types of tutoring or mentorship. So there are a lot of models that can be used outside of the regular school day that can be successful. And certainly the Saturday academies are one of those models. And even when the parents are not involved, the Saturday time can be successful.
Yeah, I was just thinking when they talked about the parents learning to help their kid, let's face it, they're the ones that are home with their child, you know, tucking them in bed at night or getting them up in the morning or whatever schedule the family happens to work out. So if mom or dad or grandma or grandpa are aware of what the child's supposed to be learning, they can come up with their own creative ways to either ask about it or quiz them or come alongside them and help them through, versus when mom and dad are out of the loop and can't figure out a way to get in the loop because the kids don't come home with a textbook anymore.
Yeah, that would certainly help for some of the students. There are certainly a not small percentage of other struggling students for whom the parents would not commit to a Saturday or couldn't because they're working. So it would not be the only approach. We'd have to do more than that to reach every student.
Donna, there's some significant research out there that are through meta-analysis that are the top 100 instructional strategies. That is what we're looking at right now as we write curriculum, as that's what we're looking at as we address, you know, where our scores are. One of the things that is along the lines of what you're talking about, the money you can spend on tutoring is one of the strategies that you get the most bang for your buck. And so we wrote money into our tutoring. The challenge for us right now is we're pushing our staff so hard. Nobody wants a tutor, and I don't blame them. And so trying to find people right now that want a tutor, I mean, we can't find certified teachers. It's there are districts that have 50 openings. I mean, it is just unheard of. But that's one of the things I agree that we need to figure out, if it's summer, if it's tutoring, if we can reach out to UConn. It's something that's on my radar that we have to do.
And certainly this is the right time to bring it up too, Donna, because we'll be starting the budget cycle in another 6 weeks. Hard to believe, but I'm sure it's already one of those piles on Mr. Stevens' desk.
It is.
So it's something for us to budget for next year and think more about as we're looking ahead, because programs that use time above and beyond the regular contract would cost money to add to the budget.
Well, and I think one of the things that was mentioned is UConn. I mean, we are so close to UConn, and I don't know about currently, but I know in the past that many UConn students did their student teaching and things like that in center school, and seem to really enjoy that time. And, you know, college kids might be interested in tutoring an elementary school student or a small group of them for some extra money, maybe at a more reasonable rate for us than, you know, hiring somebody higher on the education scale.
For sure.
You know, over the years, I think our schools have been doing pretty good. I mean, we can look at different issues like the curriculum and things of that nature, but we have a lot of things going for us, really, and a lot of things have been very successful. I think the staff has worked double time, really, to move things forward. And I know the test scores at the last meeting that we looked at were probably similar to what we've had in the past, maybe a little lower, but I would blame it on the COVID-19. I think that had quite an impact the last couple of years on what's happening in our schools. But I think the majority of our students are very resilient and come through and I don't know whether to look at just the test scores and judge that as the only criteria of success or not. It's something to look at, but you can look at the students that we have and they go into E.O. Smith, and most of them do quite well there. Our good best students rise right to the top at E.O. Smith. So I think we're giving them a good foundation really here in Wellington. And can it be improved? Sure. I think that's one of the goals of the board. We should and of the superintendent, the staff, and everyone, the community and parents, to see that things do move along. I don't know. I'm kind of proud of the schools in Wellington, and I think for a small town, I think we do a masterful job of preparing our young people for high school and for the future. Most youngsters that I meet in town seem to be happy. They seem to be enjoying what they're doing. They're making good progress. And if you look at the graduates that were turned out, most of them have done pretty well. Some of them are still living in Wellington. Many of them have gone to other places and have been very successful. So I think we can be proud of many of the things that we've done. And I mean, can we improve? Sure, we can. And I think we will.
So I just want to share, and obviously I don't have time to share everything I do with the board. But one of the things that we're looking at right now is based upon some comments and some feedback that I've heard in the past is we're looking at science right now and social studies and the questions. And we have a great connection right now with E.O. Smith, with Lou DiLoretto as principal and Karen Knoyer as superintendent. And they're collecting data for us around, some specific things around science. What percentage of Wellington students take AP science classes at E.O. Smith? And how does that compare to other towns? Because that's who they're being compared to. What's the average GPA for Wellington students in science class? How's that compare? How do the freshmen transition in? What's their GPA compared to other freshmen from other towns? So we're collecting a lot of data that I'm not sure that we would have been able to get in the past from them, just because they're trying to do their own thing as well. I was a little sad to hear Kelly Lyman is retiring out of Mansfield as superintendent, but I will tell you that we have never been in lockstep like we are right now with what we're trying to push for professional development and instructional strategies and improvement across Ashford, Mansfield, Wellington, and Region 19. And it's exciting. It's also a lot of work. It's a lot of work and it takes time.
Okay, Donna, do you have anything else?
No, I appreciate everybody's time and letting me ask my questions. And, I'm not sure where else, other than what Michelle mentioned about the Department of Education site to dig for more information.
I'll send you that link.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send you.
Thank you very much. And I also don't want my comments to be construed that I think our teachers are inept or lazy, because that is not what I'm getting at.
No, I agree with you, Donna.
Yeah,
I agree. That's not what you're saying.
Okay.
The one thing I think I hear you say, and I've said this for a while now, it's just the number of things we're trying to accomplish, is that we really need to identify criteria for success for our kids. And we haven't done that. SBAC is one of the criteria. iReady is one of the criteria. So is very good attendance. So is a small number of suspensions, a small number of referrals. portrait of the graduate comes into that. But we need really to take some time at some point in all the things we're doing to identify what are our criteria for success to make sure, you know, we are churning out good individuals out of the Wilmington Public Schools, and that they're successful or they're set up for success when they go on to high school. So I think that's your point, and I think it's really valid.
And you know, as we know, each student is different, and there may be a student who is very hands-on and so mechanical, and they would make an awesome mechanic or plumber. And then we've got somebody else who would be the brain surgeon, and we need all of those things. And so just to help the student find where their talents and their passions are, so that they can pursue them as far as they want to go. You know, but no matter what their talents and passions are, they need to be able to read. They need to be able to do basic math. You know, that's skills they need for life, no matter what path they go on. And I just want to make sure that when our kids leave us, they've got the strong foundation, that they're not playing catch up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Donna, and everyone. Moving on to old business.
Nothing.
I don't have it. You don't have any either, huh?
None.
How about the principal search?
I just shared that in my staffing. I'll hopefully have more information for the board in the next couple of days. We'll see how the site visit comes tomorrow.
Is the whole committee meeting
Yes. Afterwards, I think the
9:45 or something like that?
yes, something like that. Correct.
Okay. That's tomorrow. Okay, moving on to present to speak.
Amy Redding has her hand up, and I did take, everyone does have the ability to unmute at this point.
Hi, thank you. I'm simply here to read a letter on behalf of the GSA of Hall Memorial School. The children wrote this letter and wanted me to pass it on, and I would like it to be of public record. Dear members of the Board of Education, we are writing to extend our sincerest and most heartfelt gratitude to you all for your support of the GSA Club at HMS. The club is dedicated to making HMS a safe, supportive, accepting environment where every student may live authentically in our school and in the community. We are beyond touched at the outpouring of love and kindness, as well as the generous donations that have come pouring in from members of the community. Love wins, and we will continue to move forward, providing this town with a safe space for the LGBTQ+ youth and the allies who join us. We are humbled and honored to be a part of this. With so much gratitude, the students of the GSA of HMS, Amy Redding and Allison Spector, advisors. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Anyone else present to speak? You can unmute yourself. Just identify yourself. Going once. Going twice. I think that's it, Herb.
Okay, we're down to board comments. I'll start it off, I guess. Phil, I appreciate your report today. Very comprehensive, and the COVID-19 was good news. I hope it continues, and we should make every effort to make sure that it does. Also, I want to ask you a question on Veterans Day. November 11th is coming up, and it's not on the calendar anymore, but you said that there are is there a program going to be generated this year? I looked over the bucket list of things that are taking place, but I didn't see it anywhere on the list.
Herb, I can I can share the, so there's no, just because we didn't want to bring a lot of people into the schools, they are doing things to bring to the Saturday recognition. I believe it is at the senior center. And I believe the band for the middle school is playing there, but I will share, how about I share all that information for what both schools are doing for Veterans Day at the December meeting.
Okay. And lastly, Elena, I want to thank you for your service, and you've weathered it very, very well. And we appreciate all of the input this year that you've made, and you're very conscientious in what you were doing and what you were saying. And I think you did a good job, and were very sincere in what you were trying to do. And I think we're going to miss you, really. But you'll be out there in the sidelines, perhaps, and giving us all the encouragement that you can possibly do. But again, thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
Michelle, would you like to go next?
Sure. I want to thank Donna for bringing up the question about the curriculum. I think it's always good for us to think more deeply about how we can better serve our children and families. If anybody else wants a link to the ed site, it's EDSIGHT, not SITE, if you look on a ct.gov website, but I did send it to you, Donna. And I think it's worth having that conversation again next month as we're starting to think about what we want to do for the following school year. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Ann?
I just wanted to respond to both Herb and Donna, and I agree that it's really good that we're talking about these things, but I also want to, being on the curriculum committee and also being a grandparent who sees the work that comes home every day, the teachers are really, and I was a first grade teacher, so I know what you do during the course of the year. And I was very, very, very impressed with the quality of the work that the children are doing. I kind of see Erin's role. Erin is definitely moving everybody forward, but she's also kind of organizing and getting all of the good things that are going on in the schools down on paper onto a website, so that parents can access it. They can see exactly what their children are doing and exactly where they are. So, and I also think that all the wonderful professional development that we have going on is just incredible. And I think we're really going to move forward at a good pace. Also, when related to mental health, I must say I at home am impressed with all the second step things that are coming home. You know, if you don't succeed, try again. Just little things that the kids are learning to help them with their mental health. And then also when we get the second professional on board, I think that will help where the children have an opportunity to see someone if they're in a situation where they need to do that. I'd also like to welcome the two new paras as well as Leslie for grade 3. And thank you, Elena. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Tracy?
I don't have that much to say because a lot has already been said. But I do, I'm excited that we're going to have a full staff soon. So thank you to all those who are working hard to make that happen. I just want to follow up my statement from before that, you know, I appreciate Donna thinking forward, because we can always, it's best for all of us to always think about how can we do better, because we can all improve always. So I appreciate that part of it. I do think our schools are good. So already. And then thank you, Elena, for your service to our town on the board. And I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, this thing, the time when we all seem to be more thankful in November.
Thank you, Tracy. Laura?
First thing I guess I wanted to say was, I'm not sure whether it's thank you or congratulations or just I'm very, very happy about the collaboration between the first selectman and the fire chief and about becoming a heart-safe community. That I think that's a really important thing for people to be trained in CPR and to have defibrillators that are available. So definitely wanted to welcome the new folks and hope they stay. Definitely looking forward to being fully staffed. And then on the curriculum, it's absolutely a discussion that we need to have, but as Michelle pointed out, it's one, test scores are just one data point, and they're also only in ELA and math. Something, and coming, science is my love. I can't help it, right? These tests do not look at what our children are learning in science, in social studies, in art, in music, in health, in all the rest of their curriculum. They're only looking at these two subjects. So they are, it is just, and it's one data point for that. I took a sneak peek over there at site that Michelle mentioned, and you need to go back to 2018, 2019, because there's nothing there from the pandemic year. But definitely take a look and get some more information about that. But there are, I'm glad, I was actually very glad, Superintendent Stevens, that you are starting to look at data at EO Smith, because that's the other data. How are our students doing when they go to high school compared to the other students coming into EO Smith? And of course, use science as an example, which again made me very happy. So I just had to mention that, and also to wish you all a very, very happy and I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Laura. Donna?
Well, Tracy was the first one to steal I was going to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. So have a happy Thanksgiving. Thinking about the additional data points, Phil, if it would be possible, if we could maybe see how the kids are doing, maybe report card wise, because that would mean whether or not they're meeting the expectations that the staff is giving to them. So, some kids are not great test takers. Some kids can take tests because they know how to take tests. And it doesn't necessarily mean they have the knowledge, but maybe a good data point would be, where the students stand, what percentage of students per grade are meeting the expectations that the teacher has for them. And that way, and it maybe that'll help pinpoint areas that they need a little help, or so that we can see, hey, we've got a really strong science program, or the curriculum in a particular area, the kids aren't cutting the mustard, and have a better idea of where our students are falling, and that way. And I will take a look at the website that Michelle sent and learn some more. So have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and thank you everybody for all your time.
Thank you, Donna. Lena?
Well, I want to thank everyone for the good word, which I heard from you towards me. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I want to say that it was an honor for me to serve this town for the last 4 years. And I highly respect every person on the Board of Education. Doesn't matter how strongly we disagree. I know that it's a lot of time, a lot of commitment, a lot of work. And thank you, everyone, that you are so generous with your time and with your involvement in serving this town. So thank you. And I would like to say a special thank you to every person who voted for me. I'm sorry that I'm not there, but I also thankful for everyone who did not vote for me, because I try to be as transparent as possible with my position. I did not want to steal anybody's votes. So I respect from both sides, those who supported me and who did not supported me. So I appreciate everyone's opinion. And thank you everyone who came out and voted, no matter if supporting me or not. Also, I would like to address parents who I know are extremely concerned now for the level of education their children receive at this point. And I would try to encourage parents to do all they can to make sure that the curriculum becomes transparent, that they absolutely have a perfect understanding and knowledge of what their children are taught in schools, because it's not about whether we agree or not agree about what's taught. It's all about if you know what's taught in school. So if suddenly you disagree or if you don't feel comfortable with the schools, I can say from my own experience, from experience of my friends, that there are plenty of options. I'm not advertising it, but I want parents to know that a lot of options now, including homeschooling, where my family went on, and my children are very successful with their level of education. Also, there are a lot of online schooling with a very high level of education, starting from free and very, very affordable. So I think it should be parental choice, and the direction in our modern society, including our town, it is totally touched and influenced, and it works in our town already, that parents have less and less authority in controlling the education of their children. I can't agree with that. So if some of the parents don't agree either, so you have lots of options. But thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Phil, for your work, for your respectful work, that you always try to do your best in answering our questions, our requests. Thank you so much. God bless you all. And we are still here. Thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you, Lena. Well, there's no, I guess we can't adjourn the meeting, Michelle. We don't have that on the, well, I guess we'll have to just keep, no, we can't.
Do we need a vote to add it to the agenda before we can vote to adjourn? Do we need a vote to add it to the agenda? How about I try this? I move that we adjourn the meeting. You can call it out of order if you want.
I second the motion.
Okay, the motion is on the floor.
I second it.
Donna, okay, Donna, we can have 2 seconds and second too. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion's passed. You were checking? Okay, we're thank you very much, and we'll see you later.
Okay, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Bye.